haunting of Darkwater Lake. My heart pounded in my chest as I stood by the edge of Darkwater Lake, peering into the murky depths below. The water seemed to reflect the darkness of the night, and an eerie silence hung in the air. I was part of a group of friends who had decided to go boating on this forsaken lake, despite the local legends that whispered of its haunted past. Foolishly, we thought it would be a thrilling adventure, a chance to confront our fears and laugh them off. As we stepped onto the rickety wooden dock, I noticed how the lake seemed to swallow the moonlight, making it difficult to see beyond a few feet. The only light we had was a dim lantern, its glow doing little to comfort our nerves. We pushed a small rowboat into the water, its creaks echoing through the quiet night, and one by one we climbed aboard. The lake had a peculiar stillness to it, as if nature itself held its breath. Our voices seemed to disappear into the darkness as we laughed nervously, trying to break the eerie silence that surrounded us. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, but an unnerving feeling gnawed at my gut. "Let's row to the center of the lake," Mark, the adventurous one among us, suggested. "That's where the real haunted stories are said to happen." "Are you sure about this?" Emily, the skeptic, questioned. "Maybe we should just go back." But curiosity and the allure of the unknown won over, and soon we were rowing toward the center of Darkwater Lake. The water beneath us felt cold, and each stroke of the oars seemed to echo like distant whispers. As we reached the heart of the lake, a chill crept into the air and a thick fog began to roll in from all directions. The lantern's dim light struggled to pierce through the haze, casting an eerie glow on our faces. "I'm getting a bad feeling about this," Sarah, the quiet one, said in a trembling voice. "It's just the fog playing tricks on us," Mark assured her. "Let's continue, and we'll be back to shore in no time." But fate had other plans for us that night. The fog thickened, shrouding us in a dense veil that made it impossible to see beyond the boat. Panic began to rise within us, and we lost all sense of direction. It felt like we were adrift in a void, the lake swallowing us whole. Suddenly we heard a faint sound, a haunting melody that seemed to drift through the fog. The notes were chilling and hypnotic, pulling at our souls like an unseen force. The unease in our hearts turned into terror as we realized the lake was not just haunted by stories, but by something far more sinister. "What is that?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here," Emily urged. We desperately rowed in the direction we believed was the shore, but the haunting melody seemed to grow louder and more insistent with each stroke of the oars. It was as if the lake itself was luring us deeper into its dark secrets. As the fog lifted slightly, we caught glimpses of shadowy figures moving on the water's surface, their ghostly forms dancing to the macabre melody. Fear gripped our hearts and we rowed faster, trying to escape the clutches of the haunted lake. Just as hope seemed lost, a faint glimmer of moonlight broke through the clouds, revealing an old boathouse on the shore. With newfound strength, we rowed towards it, hoping for safety and refuge. But as we approached, the haunting melody reached a crescendo, and the boathouse seemed to come alive with a malevolent energy. The door of the boathouse swung open on its own, and the figures on the lake now gathered near the shore, their ghostly eyes fixed on us. With a surge of terror, we realized that they were not dancing but writhing in agony, trapped in some spectral torment. "We shouldn't have come here," Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face. "It's too late to turn back now," Mark said, his voice wavering with fear. "We have to face whatever's haunting this lake." As we stepped into the boathouse, a cold gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the lantern. Darkness enveloped us, and we felt a presence closing in. Our hearts pounded louder than ever as we huddled together, paralyzed with fear. And then, it spoke. A voice so chilling it sent shivers down our spines. "You dare intrude upon my domain?" The voice seemed to come from all directions, echoing within the walls of the boathouse. We could sense a malevolent force watching us, and our minds were filled with visions of long-forgotten tragedies that had unfolded on this very lake. "Please, we didn't mean any harm," Emily pleaded. "We just wanted an adventure." "You seek adventure in a place of sorrow and despair," the voice retorted. "You shall face the consequences of your folly." Suddenly, the ground beneath us began to tremble, and the ghostly figures outside the boathouse started to wail in anguish. The haunting melody grew louder, driving us to the brink of madness. It felt as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. In a desperate bid to escape, we stumbled out of the boathouse and ran toward the lake. The water rippled with unnatural energy and the ghostly figures closed in on us, reaching out with skeletal hands. With no other choice, we plunged into the icy waters, hoping to swim to safety. But the lake seemed to have a will of its own, pulling us deeper into its depths. As we struggled to stay afloat, we could hear the haunting melody getting fainter, and the ghostly figures disappeared into the fog. Darkness closed in around us, and I felt myself losing consciousness. The last thing I saw was a glimmer of moonlight above, and the haunting melody fading away into oblivion. When I awoke, I was lying on the shore, my friends by my side. We had survived the night, but the horror of Darkwater Lake would stay with us forever. We had ventured into a realm of sorrow and despair, and it had left an indelible mark on our souls. To this day, I cannot forget the haunting melody that played on that cursed lake, or the chilling voice that warned us to stay away. Darkwater Lake remains a place of unspeakable terror, a reminder that some places are better left undisturbed, lest they awaken the horrors of the past and claim the souls of the living. The first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, casting a pale light over Darkwater Lake. Exhausted and shaken, we huddled together on the shore, trying to make sense of the night's horrors. The boathouse loomed behind us, still emanating an eerie aura, as if it held dark secrets within its decaying walls. One by one, we recounted our experiences, each tale more chilling than the last. Emily spoke of seeing ghostly apparitions gliding across the water's surface, their faces contorted with pain and sorrow. Sarah shuddered as she described the bone-chilling touch of icy fingers brushing against her skin while we were submerged in the haunted waters. Mark, the adventurer, was unusually silent. He had been the one to suggest this ill-fated expedition, and the weight of his decision now burdened him. "I didn't expect it to be like this," he whispered, his voice trembling with guilt. "I thought it would be an adrenaline rush, not a nightmare." As we tried to comprehend the horrors we had witnessed, a sense of lingering dread washed over us. We knew that whatever malevolent presence haunted Darkwater Lake was not merely a legend or a ghost story. It was real, and it had nearly claimed our lives. But the mysteries of the lake were far from over. As we mustered the courage to leave, we noticed a weathered, tattered journal lying on the ground near the boathouse. Intrigued and apprehensive, we cautiously picked it up, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. The journal belonged to a man named Samuel Harrington, who had lived near Darkwater Lake over a century ago. His entries detailed a tragic tale of love, betrayal, and vengeance. According to the journal, Samuel had fallen in love with a woman named Eleanor, who lived in the neighboring village. Their love was forbidden by Eleanor's overbearing family, who were rumored to be practitioners of dark magic. Driven by their love, Samuel and Eleanor decided to elope one night, seeking refuge on Darkwater Lake. They believed they could escape the clutches of Eleanor's family and live happily together in the isolation of the lake. However, their happiness was short-lived. Upon discovering their elopement, Eleanor's family unleashed a curse on the lake, binding the souls of all who perished in its waters to eternal suffering. They swore that no love born on Darkwater Lake would ever know happiness, and any who dared to disturb the lake's haunted waters would meet a dreadful fate. As we read Samuel's account, it became apparent that we were not the first to fall prey to the lake's malevolence. The journal mentioned other adventurers who had met similar fates, drawn by the lure of the haunted lake's mysteries and condemned to a watery grave. With a sense of sorrow and respect, we decided to bury Samuel Harrington's journal on the lake's shore as a tribute to the souls lost to the curse. But the haunting melody that had filled the night seemed to echo in our minds, a constant reminder that the lake's malevolence was far from appeased. After the harrowing experience, our group drifted apart, unable to shake the trauma of that night. Emily became a skeptic no more, seeking solace in her newfound interest in paranormal research. Sarah withdrew into herself, haunted by the icy touch she had felt in the lake's waters. Mark, burdened with guilt, left for distant lands, seeking redemption for his reckless actions. As for me, the horrors of Darkwater Lake left a lasting impression on my soul. I couldn't escape the haunting melody that played in my dreams, and my nights were filled with restless visions of ghostly figures reaching out from the depths. The legends of Darkwater Lake endured, whispered by locals as a warning to those who dared venture near its haunted waters. The lake remained an ominous reminder of the past, its dark history forever etched into the minds of those who had witnessed its malevolent presence. To this day, I cannot shake the feeling that the lake's curse still lingers, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to stumble upon its shores. Darkwater Lake will forever be a place of sorrow and despair, where the ghosts of the past dance to a haunting melody, and the living dare not tread.